Thank you for listening to 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. We're also self-supporting, so feel free to contribute to the channel through Venmo at Recovery Recordings 615. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered as professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today is December 23rd, 2024. This is episode 2 of the 3 Legacies Recovery Recording podcast, and tonight we have a special guest with y'all. It's Randy M. from Los Angeles. How you doing, Randy?
Oh, I'm good, Paul. I'm good. Thanks for having me over here.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Christmas is 2 days away. It's cool, man. It's a special time of the year for me. Yeah. And from Los Angeles, though, I'm assuming that it's probably, 60, 70 degrees there right now? What is the temperature?
It's pretty sweet out right now.
Nice.
Just went for a little jog, and it's beautiful.
That's great, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I went to San Diego last year, about a year or so ago, and it was the first time I'd been to the West Coast, and it was cool. Just a cool experience, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it brings me to so next on January 3rd, we got Bill C. from Torrance, California. He's gonna be on he's gonna be having an episode with us, so that's exciting. I was just since we talked last week and you had agreed to do the show with me, I was sitting there thinking about the first. We've met actually 2 times. It was the first time we met was at a men's retreat in Swanee, Tennessee. Beautiful St. Mary's Retreat Center up there. Wonderful place.
Fantastic.
It's magical up there. It's and I met you it was the Primetime's men's retreat from Brent, the Primetime men's group from Brentwood, Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was great. You did a thing, a couple sessions at that retreat. Then the fall, and I think it was. I remember, if I remember correctly, that was the year after we all met back up from COVID. So what year would that have been? Like 21?
Probably, yeah, right around November of 21.
Yeah, it was November. Yeah, that's true. And then the following year, I got to meet you again at the same retreat. It was the following year, and you led the whole retreat that time, which was a special weekend, man. Yeah, had a bunch of good guys with us. Yeah, and where
a lot of great guys there in Tennessee.
Yeah, man. And also, if I'm not mistaken, don't you do like a meditation retreat up there and at Swanee too?
Yeah, we're calling it emotional sobriety now. It was a lot of prayer and meditation, because a lot of people don't know this, but there's a whole step about prayer and meditation.
Yeah.
You say we're going to meditate, people run out of the room. They forget there's a step on that.
Amen.
And it might be important to do that once in a while.
Yeah. What do they say? It's not extra credit. Yeah. It's not extra credit.
It's an actual step.
Yeah.
And it's the living step. It's prayer and meditation is the way of life.
Yeah.
When you get into once you get past staying sober one day at a time.
Yeah.
And you get into the living side, prayer and meditation is the means by which we live to good purpose.
Yeah. Amen. It's tapping into the power, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny how I talk about it quite often. Like even in recovery, like when I first started getting sober, there wasn't a lot of people that was talking about tapping into the power, actualizing that there's actual power. Me and a buddy was talking last week about how I had this concept of God that was like he was some guy I met after I died sometime, and like he was either going to tell me I did good or bad, and that's as far as it went. Yeah, as far as it went,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, talk to us about like what you're doing in California these days. What's going on?
Well, let's see. I run a couple of meetings a week. I lead a couple of meetings every week on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Nice.
We start at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I'll just say it like that. You got to figure out where you live and what time it is at 11 o'clock in Pacific time.
Yeah.
And we do start with 20 minutes of meditation, and we do some prayers, and then we go through the steps.
Nice.
And we have a nice group. It's a pretty much an international group, people all over the world.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And what is it? Sorry. What was the application?
Oh, it's principles in application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of them. And also when we did one of the retreats, I think you led a session, and we.
Oh yeah, because it was Saturday, and I do it every single Saturday unless there's some reason I physically can't do it.
Yeah.
I've been doing that meeting it started out with just sponsees where we were going through the steps, and that's kind of what we called our little group, and then it opened up to more people wanted to be part of it, and then it became a in-person meeting, and now it's just totally on Zoom since COVID.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It brings me, I didn't add, what's your sobriety date?
Yeah.
Sorry.
My sobriety date is February 28th, 1988.
1980. Okay, nice, dude.
36 years sober.
That's great, man.
And 36 and a little extra. You know, alcoholics, we're like babies.
Yeah.
We got to let you know, I'm 36 and a half years sober. You know, after about 4.5, you know, the infants, they get over the half part and they're like, yeah, I'm 4 or I'm 5. But, you know, when you're 4.5, it's a big deal.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because then you also have the obstacle of then when you actually turn the actual age, you're like, you know, I've been that for a while. And it's just completely bonkers.
Yeah, now I'm 4 years.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I just celebrated 8 years last week. Yeah, so
that is fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's been a miracle. Yeah, it's crazy.
8 years was really the turning point for me.
Oh, nice.
I've been around the meetings and you know, I wasn't drinking, and I was not drinking, and I had some great mentors from about 2.5 years on, but it was about 8 years where it really started to become a way of life. And I really kind of started to settle into, oh yeah, these 12 steps, they got to be lived right now, today, or you don't have nothing. I don't care how long you're sober, right? At 8 years, you got to do the same stuff today you had to do day one and more. If you don't do it, you're just miserable.
That's true. Absolutely true. I had a friend of mine talking about, like, you know, like different experiences. They were like, I know these people that are, you know, doing ayahuasca and all this other stuff, right? And it's like, you know, like, man, it's like, let's just say you could do something like that and get in some kind of altered state. Like, what about, like, you know, I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking to the core. You know, like, if my feet aren't moving towards service, like, what does it look like at the end of the day, right? I mean, you know, it is about, you know, getting into what it's the name of the group, right? Or the meeting. It's application, the principles and application, right?
Yeah. You got to be applying it.
That's it.
And ayahuasca is probably a great thing. Some people have a lot of success with it.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm not willing to risk the chance that maybe it will awaken the dragon and ruin my life, because my life is so good today.
Yeah. The guy that mentioned that to me, he's, you know, he's a younger guy in recovery. It's funny. I've had thoughts, you know, over the years, and I'm in the same boat. It's funny, like, I'm in the same boat. Like, here's the thing, like, through applying principles to my life, like, my life today is so amazing. I'm scared that anything I would do to jeopardize that would be like,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, man, I would hate to have to, you know, reverse any of that in some way, you know? Let me ask you this. So you just kind of touched on what was going to be one of my opening questions. Was you said that 8 years was right around the time that it all turned around for you. So so was it 8 years before you actually got into, like, you know, like you said you had mentors, but what about, like, when you started getting into the steps? What did that look like?
No, I'll tell you a little bit about my history. Right?
Okay.
So the last 2 months of my drinking, there was also a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our generation, well, I'm a little older than you are, but I grew up in the 70s. You know, I don't know anybody that just drank anymore. but I am alcoholic.
Yeah.
Okay. So usually when I share, the first thing I say is I'm Randy and I am alcoholic. And what that means is that my body is allergic to alcohol. I am alcoholic. I'm allergic to alcohol. I can never ever drink alcohol successfully ever again,
Amen.
one day at a time. Because if I do, I'm going to have an allergic reaction. I'm going to black out. I'm a blackout drinker. I'm going to crash cars. I'm going to trash relationships. I'm going to push everyone and everything out of my life so that nothing can keep me from drinking, because that's what I'm going to want to do once I start because of the allergy. Okay? So I'm allergic to alcohol, but I'm not here because I'm allergic to alcohol. I'm here because I have a disease. The disease is called alcoholism. I didn't know that for a very long time. What I thought was, so I came into the program, I came in through an 11-step meeting. That's probably why meditation is such an important part of my sobriety. But when I came in, it was an 11-step meeting. The lady said, "My name's Jenny." She would read how it works. She told us how she meditated. We meditated for 20 minutes. And then it was a small group, you can imagine, because it had meditation in it. There were like 6 of us. And
Yeah.
after the meeting, I don't know what those other 6 people did, but I went there with my brother because he thought I might have a problem and he thought this might be helpful. And the meditation was helpful, but I would, after the meeting, I would go back out and drink again. So I went to this meeting every Tuesday for for a summer, for I would say about 2 months every Tuesday. I went and I got a little taste of Alcoholics Anonymous, and then I would go out and get smashed again, of course. But I didn't consider that slipping because I had never committed. I just committed to the meditation, not to the meeting,
And that was in
not to
1987.
AA. What's that?
That was in 87,
In
1987.
'87, I started, yeah,
Okay.
around, yeah. Then I spent 2 months in LA every day. Wasn't going to drink. I was on vacation. I was staying with a girlfriend, and every day she went to work, and every day I was going to go out and see some friends because I went to school out here. And every day I'd say, I'm not going to drink today. And then, when you wake up with an unbelievable hangover from doing cocaine and drinking all night, the first thing you want is a beer. So I would say, I'm not going to drink. And then I would just say, I'm just going to have one beer. And as soon as I had one beer, I was off to the races again. So I never got out of that apartment. And I sat in the bedroom most of the time watching the crack under the door because I was sure they were coming to get me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that my mind told me that I'm having a good this is a good vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
right? So I asked in this crazed part of my life, I asked the girl I was dating if she would marry me and if she would move to Miami with me, and so we moved back to Miami. And I said I would get sober, and so we got back to Miami, and I got sober the day after Halloween because I couldn't imagine not being drunk on Halloween and doing the things that I like to do on Halloween and being, dressing up like an idiot and drinking like an idiot and acting like an idiot. And then I got sober until Thanksgiving. And I went to a meeting every day, a noon meeting, and I got a sponsor, and I shared a lot, and I was really annoying. And then on Thanksgiving, my brother thought maybe I wasn't really an alcoholic, and he said, "Well, look, you just need to learn how to drink and use right. So I'm going to give you one line of cocaine, and that's all we're going to do tonight." And I don't know why, but I said okay, and I did it, and it was the worst night of my life. Really, literally, I thought, what did I like about this? This is freaking miserable.
Yeah.
Doing one line is terrible. And I know this is primarily Alcoholics Anonymous, but this is my story.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up drinking just that night, and I came back into the program the next morning.
Yeah.
And then I stayed sober until New Year's Eve. We had to go to a party. Same brother said, okay, you're not drinking. You could take a Valium. And I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I took a Valium, then I could start drinking. Then I had another terrible New Year's Eve and ruined it for everybody. And I came back in the next day. And then the last time I drank, it was Valentine's Day. I was in a different country with not my fiance. and I was seeing somebody that I had seen before on a work trip, and drinking made it easier to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I drank, and that was the last time I drank. It was in London. London. I flew back to the States, went to a convention I had to go to, stayed sober, and then I got home. And I told my sponsor, and so now I've drank like 4 times, and he told me if I ever drank again, he wouldn't sponsor me. I begged him to be my sponsor because he was the only guy in the meeting that talked about the book. Everything he talked about came from the book. And I knew he had something. He was happy, joyous, and free. I saw it in him.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it in many people in the rooms. So I begged him to be my sponsor. He said, on 3 conditions. 1, today's your sobriety date, because I already had 12 days, but I had to be willing to give those up to make it today. So I said, okay. 2, what was 2? I had to go to a meeting every day for 90 days. And 3 was I wasn't allowed to share for 90 days. And I thought, that's insane. Why would anybody go to a meeting if they weren't going to share? And he was just sick of me sharing all the time how great I'm doing and then drinking again. And so that was I never got drunk again after that. I never did any mind altering substances unless it was, in a hospital dying of spinal meningitis. They gave me a little morphine there.
Wow.
But I haven't had any mind altering substances. That was because I last time I drank was on Valentine's Day Eve, and then my sobriety date is February 28th, because that's what he said, and I've kept it there, and it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you, what was, you said he was a big book guy. Did he get into service and stuff too? Was he a service guy?
He helped a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not a lot of people wanted it. That I went to a meeting every day. I met him there every day at lunch. It was a noon meeting. It was in Miami. It's called the Safe Harbor Group. And then we would go across the street to Burger King, and they had a salad bar. He liked the salad bar. And I thought I was the one being of service, because I would go, he was 52 years old. I was 27. So I was going to Burger King with this old man to let him talk, because he needed someone to talk to.
That's funny.
One day he was talking to me. He busted me so many times. I never had my wallet on me. I don't know why, but I always kind of expected the world to take care of me. So I would show up and say, "Oh, I forgot my wallet. Will you pay for me today?" And he'd pay for me. And then one day he says, "No, I'm not paying for you anymore. You show up with your wallet. You got to have a wallet. Bring your wallet. You don't get lunch today."
Yeah.
And then one time we were sitting there talking, and he looked at me and he stuck his finger in my face and he says, Randy, if you knew how sick you are, your head would explode.
My grand sponsor used to say the same thing. It's funny.
Yeah.
He used to say something similar to that. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I think he was onto something, and I think if I think it's as true today as it was then, and I have 36 years of sobriety, and I think that if I could see how alcoholism is in my life, if I could see how sick I am, even though I have a great life and a great program and a lot of service, if I could see how sick I was right now, my head would explode.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, it's interesting. We were talking briefly before we got on before we did this call. I was sitting there thinking, today's topic, when we spoke, what was a week or so ago, and we were talking about doing the show, we were going to name it, the topic or the show is going to be titled Living with an Unsatisfied Mind. And you kind of just touched a little bit on it. I was sitting there thinking, like, man, I had no clue. And I know, it seems like I know people even today with 10, 15, 20 years of sobriety that really don't touch on the fact that I have a mind that is just completely unsatisfied and talking to me about whatever it chooses to talk about all the time, constantly, and so, it was one of those things where, like, my personal experience is I didn't really get into the big book much in the very beginning. We read parts of it and we did, the best we could at the time. But I had a friend of mine get into, well, I heard my grand sponsor was talking about growing spiritually, how important it was to grow spiritually, and then me, being a great, alcoholic, decided I was, okay, I'm going to go to meetings and stuff, whatever, but I'm going to, I'm going to grow, I'm going to get into some spiritual stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it was the Power of Now was the book that really threw a lot of emphasis on like
Mm-hmm.
how unsatisfied this mind is. I got this thinking mind that's constantly thinking, judging every scenario, just situation after situation after situation. And I was probably 4 months sober, 5 months sober when I really started seeing that, and my mind was just blown from it. And at the same time, I started getting into meditation, which was
Mm-hmm.
which was vital for that because, I'm in the same boat. My mind still talks crap all the time, constantly talking
Mm-hmm.
crap. But today, like through meditation, I have some space between me. Now I can watch it and it's not me, it's like, oh, okay. It just does what it does. It's just going to do what
Mm-hmm.
it does. It's funny. Like I was talking to a guy today about how like this podcast, for example, my current experience
Mm-hmm.
with it is, I just started this and I have a lot of negative talk about like, oh man, this is stupid. My mind's constantly just, talking crap about whatever, and I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk a little bit about what was your experience though, as far as like, I don't believe most people actually understand any of that when they come into the rooms. Right. And so let's talk
Yeah.
about what that looked like for you. Like what did that, what that look like, the process of discovering a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I, at a year and a half, I used to talk to my sponsor every day.
Mm.
And I would tell him, when I would complain most of the time, that's how alcoholics ask for help. We complain. Uh, and I would complain to him and complain to him. And
Yeah.
he would say to me every now and then, he would say, look, Randy, if you could do whatever you want, if you had a magic wand and you could do whatever you want right now, what would you be doing? And I'd say, I'd be living in Los Angeles, pursuing an acting career.
Mm.
And I said it once, and I might have heard myself say it, but I don't know. And then, 3 months later, he asked me that question again. And a year and a half in sobriety, he asked me that question again. And I said I'd be in Los Angeles. And I thought, I'm 27, 28 years old. I guess I was 28 at the time. I thought, I don't want to be 52. Looking back, thinking I could have gone to LA and tried.
Mm.
And I said, you know what? I got to go. And I went home and I packed my truck up and I drove to Los Angeles.
Wow. Wow.
And I had gone to school here, so it wasn't completely foreign. And I had been sort of dabbling in an acting career a little bit. And the universe is very funny. You got to be very careful what you pray for, because I prayed to move to Los Angeles and pursue an acting career.
Mm.
And I got to pursue an acting career.
Yeah.
I forgot to say, move to Los Angeles and star in a sitcom and make millions of dollars every year and live happily ever after. I forgot that part.
Mm.
And the universe gave me exactly what I asked for. I mean, I got in all the unions. I did a little acting. I did all the little stuff and never made it big. But I did have a production company for 27 years out here or more.
Mm-hmm.
And today I sell windows and doors and I love it. And it's a whole crazy story. But I moved back here and I was unpacking my truck and I could hear my dad. I could hear my dad's voice. I drove out here to get away from my family as well as to pursue this acting career. And I'm unloading the truck and I can hear my dad's voice telling me what an idiot I was for the way that I packed the truck.
Mm.
And I thought, damn, I drove all the way. I drove as fast as I could to get here. And as soon as I opened the door to unload my truck, there's this crazy voice judging me for the way I packed the truck to move out here.
Mm.
And it brought my dad with me. And I realized, wow, I just drove to LA and nothing's changed.
Wow.
I have the same mind. I saw it there as I was unpacking the truck. I had no idea that was anything to do with alcoholism. I thought alcoholism was alcohol. And there's one word in the whole big book I would change. It's in how it works. It says, remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. That needs to be changed to alcoholism. Because alcohol is a drug that sits in a bottle. It is not cunning, baffling, and powerful. It has no power over me, zero power over me, unless I drink it. The reason I drink alcohol is because I have alcoholism. I have this disease that I describe as a self-talking, unsatisfiable, fault-finding, opinionated mind that's always in a hurry, easily frustrated, and can't stand the word no. But that came with years of practicing the program. The other problem that I had with Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't know where I got this, but I thought that the 12 steps said, now that I've been a good boy and I haven't drank for a very long time, and I got a job, and I've been doing what I'm told to do, and I've been a good boy, and I did your 12 steps, I did your 12 chores, and I go to meetings, and I've been a good boy. Now I'm entitled to have the right amount of money in the bank, the right car, the right job, the right relationships, and live in the right house. And so I thought the purpose of the 12 steps was to stop drinking so that I could have all the things that I thought would make me happy. I recently discovered that the 12 steps says, it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. And it dawned on me that the whole purpose of this program, it's not even to not drink, it's to have a spiritual awakening.
Amen.
I can't have a spiritual awakening if I'm drinking. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Because the first step is I can't drink. Can't drink. Yeah. And the last step is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I try to carry this message, the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, not my story. Amen. The message is 12 steps as a way of life and the relationship with the power that comes out of the application of the 12 steps.
Amen.
That is the message that I'm supposed to carry. It's not my drunk log. Amen. My drunk log is stupid, just like yours and just like everyone else's. I drank and I did a lot of stupid stuff. Yeah. And I drank again. And no matter how much stupid stuff I did, it couldn't stop me from drinking. Right? Yeah. So at 2.5 years of sobriety, I had a job. I had an apartment. I had an agent. I could pay my rent. But I was dying inside. I was dying. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was the world's most unlucky person. I had a job. It was a job that was beneath me. I thought, in my mind, told me I should have a better job. And I should be making more money. And it compared me to other people. And I lost. And I had a girl. When I met that girl, she was the hottest girl on the planet. I would do anything to have her as my girlfriend. And I was positive she was the one that would make me happy. 2 weeks after I tricked her into going out with me and being my girlfriend, I'm starting to talk to myself about how do I get out of this relationship. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But I stayed with her another 4 years.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. Yeah.
I had a job, just didn't like the job. I had a girl, I didn't like the girl. I had a car, didn't like I would go to this men's stag meeting, and at the end of the meeting, somebody would inevitably say, just don't drink today and you're a winner. Was kind of the motto of this meeting. And it's a great motto. If you don't drink today and you're alcoholic, yes, you're a winner. Yeah. But inside, I didn't feel like a winner. I felt like the world's biggest loser. And my mind told me I was. And I'd sit on my bed and weep because I was never going to have a girl that I liked, or a house that I could afford, or a job that I was going to be proud of. Oh. And I was dying, and I pretty much wanted to kill myself every day at 2.5 years of sobriety.
Wow.
And I had a new sponsor in LA, and he was another great guy, a great guy. And I went to his house, and I told him, I'm dying. I'm dying. I've done the 12 steps. I go to a meeting every day. I'm dying. I'm going to die. And I said, how did you find your higher power? Because this guy laughed. I didn't laugh.
Yeah.
He had a wife. I didn't have a wife. He had a house. I didn't have a house. He liked his job. He enjoyed what he did. I did not like my job. I said, how do I find this higher power? And he told me this crazy story. He said at 9 years sober, he ran out of his house in his cowboy boots and his underwear. And he was in Arizona. And he climbed a mountain. And his wife called the police and said, I think you need to go get my husband. He's run up this mountain, and I think he needs help. And so they went to go find him, and they put him in a straitjacket, and they put him in the back of a padded wagon, and they were taking him to whatever you call it today, the asylum, whatever it's, And he was sober 9 years. And he said on the way from the top of that mountain to the asylum, he found God.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's what I said. Wow, that's an incredible story, but I'm going to die because I look terrible in cowboy boots and underwear. I'm not going to make it to 9 years. And that's just not a program I could work, you know? And I felt a little hopeless at that moment.
Wow.
And I followed a producer to a men's stag meeting, you know, trying to use as much self-pity as I could to get him to hire me to put me into a movie or something. And I'm at that meeting, and this guy, Ted B, was sharing, and he said, alcoholism isn't alcohol, it's an unsatisfied mind. And I heard that.
Wow.
And I had no idea what he was talking about. And after the meeting, I pulled him aside and I said, what are you talking about? Alcoholism is alcohol. We don't drink. That's it. We just don't drink no matter what, right? And he said, no. He says, alcoholism is a disease that centers in your mind, like it says in the book. And it manifests as an unsatisfied mind. He said unsatisfied. I have changed it to unsatisfiable because I have 36 years of sobriety. I know I keep saying that, but I only say that because sometimes I sound like I might be a newcomer when I describe the disease. But I just didn't know what the disease was. I just thought the name of the game was don't drink no matter what. And at 6 months of sobriety, the obsession to drink was lifted. It got quiet. That voice that always talked about having to drink, it went away. And I thought that I had treated the disease because it stopped talking about alcohol. Now it was talking about suicide and was talking about killing yourself. And I just thought I was the world's unluckiest guy. And you hear it a lot at meetings. I got a bad picker, right? I always pick the wrong woman. Well, I don't have a bad picker. I pick great women. These women love their life. They're smiling. They're happy. They're great. They spend 6 months in my house and I crush the life out of them. They are miserable. They hate their lives. They don't want to go to their work anymore. And it's not them, it's me because of my mind, because I'm never satisfied. And I thought that he said unsatisfied, and I thought maybe one day I could get satisfied. But what I found is that the disease doesn't get better, it gets worse. And that I can be more unsatisfied today than I ever was. Quicker because I'm sober longer. And so this unsatisfiable, fault-finding, opinionated mind, that's what has to be treated. And I have to know that that's alcoholism. And it says it on page 52 in the big book. And I'll read the symptoms of alcoholism to you. I don't know how much time we have, but this is page 52. It says, I read the book in the first person. I never read it in the we, because this is a we program. We do the program together, but I got to do it.
Gotcha.
So it says I had to ask myself, this is like the second paragraph down, third paragraph down. I have to ask myself why I shouldn't apply to my human problems the same readiness to change my point of view. So as an alcoholic with alcoholism, I am having trouble with personal relationships. Are you in a long-term relationship right now?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Is it sometimes troubling?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Drunk or sober?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I can't control my emotional nature. Do you ever just have a blow up?
Sure.
You ever just
Absolutely
get unbelievably mad because somebody took your parking spot?
Yeah.
Because you were on your way to the gym to get on the treadmill and you wanted to park as close to the gym as possible, and now you got to walk an extra 10 steps and your head explodes because someone took your spot?
That's it.
So I have trouble controlling my emotional nature sometimes.
Yeah.
Drunk or sober. I'm prey to misery and depression. Drunk or sober. I can't make a living satisfactory enough to keep me sober. I have a feeling of uselessness. Drunk or sober. I'm full of fear. Drunk or sober. I'm unhappy. Drunk or sober. I can't seem to be of real help to other people, drunk or sober. Now, isn't the basic solution to these bedevilments more important than what I watch on Instagram today?
Yeah.
I just updated the book a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
But this is alcoholism isn't alcohol. There's no alcohol in there.
Yeah.
But because of this mind-powered disease, I have trouble with personal relationships. In the fourth step, in the 12 and 12, it says, I have the total inability to form a true partnership with another human being.
Mm.
And with family and friends, I've been especially stubborn and stupid.
Mm. Oh. Oh.
So here, what's interesting is that I got to look in how it works. It says, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. And then it says, usually those are men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. So I'm an alcoholic with alcoholism. And as an alcoholic with alcoholism, I am constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself. Mm. And the steps is a way of life where I learn how to take inventory, which is where I learn how to be honest with myself. Mm-hmm. And so I have to do these steps because I can't see that I have an unsatisfied mind.
Amen. Yeah.
And so what's cunning, baffling, and powerful is alcoholism. It's a disease. It's my voice. It talks to me in my own voice. And it's so powerful that it could override every experience I ever had and tell me that, oh, you should drink, right? The minute I drink, and I've done it a few times, I told you in the beginning, the minute I would start drinking, the same voice, in exactly the same voice, would say, why'd you do that? You're an alcoholic. You can't drink. You're so stupid. Why did you drink? Now this, mind you, is the exact same voice that told me I had to drink. And then I drink and it tells me I'm stupid for drinking. And then it says, well, you already screwed up for today. You might as well get good and drunk. And then I do that. And then the next day I wake up and it says, well, why don't you're still hungover. You might as well drink today. We'll quit tomorrow. And over and over and over again, right? Mm-hmm. You ever had the idea to buy a new car?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then obsess about cars, right?
Yeah.
All your mind, all it ever wants to talk about is new car.
Yep.
New car. Got to have a new car, everything. I drive down the freeway. All I see is new cars. I'm picking out colors. And 5 months into it, I can't take it anymore. I can't, not one more conversation about new cars. I got to go buy a new car, and I buy it. And it's quiet. And I get in the new car and I drive off the lot. And as soon as I get all four wheels off the lot, the same voice, the one that had to have a car for 6 months, and I finally bought it, that same voice says, why'd you buy a new car? You had a perfectly good car. You had no car payment. You didn't need a new car. You're so stupid. In my own voice.
The thinking mind, yeah. The thinking mind, yeah.
And this is why we get into emotional pain. And we get into enough emotional pain, we start thinking about alcohol or suicide or something to kill that pain. It's got to be treated. The 12 steps is not a way to, Alcoholics Anonymous is not a way to stop drinking. It's a way of life where drinking isn't necessary. If I live this way of life, if I practice a little bit of spiritual progress every day, I never have to drink again, and I can become happily and usefully whole today, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. It's interesting too, because when I started, luckily one great thing about the group that I got sober at was, and my grand sponsor at the time, he talked about alcoholism like this. This is all he really talked about with it, right? And and then and I started going through the work. I love though, like if you think about it, like, so I know people that are not alcoholics that that this mind still tortures them like that, and the difference between
Yeah.
us though is for us, it's deadly, it's like, okay, like so-and-so, whoever can drink successfully and they don't have a physical reaction to alcohol like I do, so
Yeah.
I think it's the human nature, in a lot of different ways. And what's that part? I don't remember the exact page, but in the doctor's opinion, when they say any description that leaves out the physical aspect of the illness is incomplete, and that's
Yes.
so important too. It's
Yes.
you touched on it earlier about how, like, I heard a guy once say, he said, it doesn't matter how much I pray, how much therapy I go to, how many years or how many days it's been since I had a drink. I can go to church. I can meditate on the top of the Himalayas, all this stuff. And none of that changes the fact that my body physically reacts to alcohol different than other people,
That's right.
And
I'm allergic. I can never, ever, ever drink alcohol successfully ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And it's crazy,
Yeah.
man, because like, we talk often about how, like, alcohol's intended purpose is to enjoy it, go have a drink or whatever and enjoy it. And it doesn't, you don't have that physical reaction to it like me, and.
Yeah. But you didn't always have that physical reaction.
No, I didn't. No.
For a long time, it worked perfectly. That's why we drink it so much.
Yeah. I got, by the time, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back though, I can remember like having a physical craving at like 15 though, but it was probably pretty young. Yeah. But
I drank. The first time I drank till I threw up, and I was so happy I threw up because it meant I could drink some more.
Yeah. So let me ask you this though. So, like so what about? So, like earlier in the conversation, we kept talking about having this, or tapping into this power, having this spiritual experience through this. So, I have a thinking mind that's constantly chit chatting, right? And I really like the fact that you said when you came into sobriety, it was 11th step meeting. That's cool. Like, so I'd gotten pretty deep into meditation by the time I was like 3 or 4 months sober, right? Well, I'd started getting into it, right? And I always tell my guys, like, I don't care if it's just a few minutes a day at the beginning. Consistency, and what happened is like, and I talk to them a lot about the thinking mind and how it's, it's always chit chatting and it's always unsatisfied. And what happens though, and this is in my personal experience with guys I sponsored, plus just in my own personal experience, was I started to be able to get to a point where it was like, how like in meditation, and when I do a meditation, I always like add in the like, when you realize you're thinking, bring your attention back to whatever your focal point is, right? When you realize you're thinking, bring it back. When you realize, bring it back. So I got to this point where, like, what it did was it started, cultivating some kind of, like, as I started seeing myself as I started seeing that I was talking crap to myself, it's like I was able to, like, okay, let's go back into the body. Getting out of thoughts and going back into the body. And I started using, Eckhart talks about a lot about, like, using the body as a portal to the presence, And that was a game changer for me, which the book really don't talk. I don't, it's not, and also this is, although, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, at the same time, like, any new people out there that are listening to this, don't think that, what we're talking about when we talk about the power now or any of that is we're talking about specifically, it has to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just talking about my personal experience with this. So, but that was a game changer for me. I started seeing like, holy crap. And I started seeing that pretty early on. And it was also, it wasn't just by doing that stuff. A lot of it had to do with, even before I got into some of that spiritual literature, a lot of it was like, I'd stayed so close to my sponsor that, like, I started saying, like, man, I got all kinds of old ideas that are just getting in the freaking way, these old belief systems, and it was crazy how, like, but it's weird how I don't think it's talked about enough about how, like, this is the problem, right? It's like I have this unsatisfied mind. I really like what you said, unsatisfiable. That's cool. I like that. But what I started seeing through the process was there's something else that I can start living from, right? It wasn't just the thinking mind. As I started waking up and having this experience, I said, like, holy crap, something's here witnessing all this stuff. Right. And that was part of the awakening process. Right. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Like, like like as far as current, like what does your current life look like? And also on how, what I liked about when we did the retreat was you threw a lot of the book into this with your experience too. So let's talk about, like, you know, referring to the book and what your daily life looks like. Let's just say step 10 on, like, when these situations crop up and you're, you know, let's just say you get lucky and you see that you're, you know, talking crap to yourself and you got this mind that's unsatisfied.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? Talk to me about it.
Yeah. So, you know, that's great questions. So it's the crazy thing is there's no tricks. There's no tricks. You can learn all these little tricks, you know, when your mind does this, you do that. But that's self, learning old ideas about how to treat self. And this is not a self-help program. This is a God-help program. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. So the goal is to have the spiritual awakening. Now, you got to be in a lot of pain, first of all, to give up alcohol.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be in a lot of pain to give up self.
Yeah.
Nobody gives up self freely.
Beat into it.
So, but the first step, okay, so today I have a idea of what alcoholism, ego, and self is, right? I got this alcoholism, unsatisfiable mind. I got this infantile ego that's always in a hurry, easily frustrated, and can't stand the word no.
Yeah.
And then I got this self, which is everything I think I know up until this point. Myself is my story. It's the story about how women are supposed to act, about how men are supposed to act, about how bosses are supposed to act, about how people are supposed to let you in on the freeway, and how I never have to let anyone in on the freeway. I have all these stories, and that's the self. And I got to see what that is. I got to know it, because that's what has to be treated, not alcohol. I can never, ever drink again. All of the instructions for not getting drunk today are you don't take the first drink. That's it. That's it. Now, if I could do that, I would do that, but I can't because I'm in so much emotional pain. I got to do something to kill the pain. But what alcohol does is it allows me to live in the moment. It does what the Power of Now does sober. It does what the program does sober. Alcohol does it as a medicine. And it worked great, and I loved it, and I loved it so much that I used it so much I became allergic to it. Now, I might have been allergic to it when I first drank. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I'm allergic to it today. Can't drink it.
Amen.
Now I got to treat this disease so I don't get too emotionally upset to where I would consider doing it again, right? So I get to walk into the first step, and the first step says that I admit I'm powerless over alcohol. We've done that a million times now. And that my life has become unmanageable. The life that's unmanageable is not my outside life. I can drive my car. I can tie my shoes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's my inner thought life that's unmanageable. I can't manage when my self-talking alcoholism mind is going to tell me I need a new car. I can't manage when it's going to see something and say, oh, you need that. And if you had that, then you'd be happy. And now you can't be happy until you have that. And I can't manage what thoughts are going to come in and stick. So the first step in the 12 and 12, it says, who cares to admit complete defeat? And I got to ask myself, do I care to admit complete defeat? Because I can read those words. I agree with them. Yeah, who cares? I read it like a book, right? Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course. Okay, I agree with that. Every natural instinct in me cries out against the idea of powerlessness. I don't know too much about that, but those words make sense to me, so I'm just going to keep reading. And that's the way we go through the book. And my sponsor said, no, we're starting over. Who cares to admit complete defeat? I got to ask myself, do I care to admit complete defeat? And the answer right away, still today, right away, no.
Yeah.
I'll admit alcohol defeat, but I'm not a complete defeat. I got a job. I make a lot of money. I have a successful career. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I pay all the insurances. I take care of things, but I'm a complete defeat, 100% complete defeat at being okay in this moment if I use alcoholism.
Amen.
If I ask myself, how am I doing? I don't have enough money in the bank. I don't like that the stock market went down this week. I don't think I'm going to be okay in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Constantly chit chat. Yeah.
Always telling me that doom and gloom is coming. So I'm a complete defeat at being okay in this moment with my alcoholism. And and then it says, I know that little good can come to any alcoholic, me, who joins AA unless I first accept my devastating weakness and all of its consequences. My devastating weakness isn't alcohol, it's alcoholism. It's that unsatisfiable, fault-finding, opinionated mind.
Self, yeah.
Self. That story, all the stories that I think I know.
Yeah.
And I got to be willing to give all of that up. And the last line in the 12 and 12 in the first step, this is like the crash course on how you get to start to have a spiritual awakening, is I stand ready to do anything which will lift my merciless obsession from me. That's what the last line in the first step says.
Willingness.
So at the end of the first step, at this moment, in this one that's happening right now, no reference to any other moment, I stand ready to do anything which will lift my merciless obsession. Today, my merciless obsession might be to make one more sale, to bonus, to pick the right stock, to have a Porsche Macan, a black one that's an S. It's got to be an S,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At any given time, I used to be mercilessly obsessed to drink alcohol, and that obsession was removed by a power greater than myself because I couldn't do it. But I'm not mercilessly obsessed to drink anymore. I'm mercilessly obsessed to have the thing that my mind is telling me today, if I had that, then I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And when I stand ready to give up that to do anything which will relieve me of this merciless obsession, I get to walk into step 2. And step 2 says that I'm going to come to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. I'm going to come to believe that. I'm not going to come to believe that because you convinced me of it. And I'm not going to come to believe it because you wrote a good book and I believe what it says in the book. I'm going to come to believe that by doing something.
Suffering. A lot of suffering has to be involved, right?
A lot of suffering. We do not give up our right to be the power for our lives easily.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what we read in that first step, every natural instinct, everything in me cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness.
Yeah.
We go kicking and screaming until I stand ready to do anything, until I'm so hurt that I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Then I get to start to come to believe. And the easiest thing about coming to believe is this. We don't care what you believe in. Nobody cares. We don't care what you call it. As a matter of fact, I prefer you didn't tell me what the name of your higher power was, because I'm probably going to be prejudiced against that name, and I'm probably going to not like you after you tell me what your higher power is.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got a lot of baggage, yeah.
A lot of baggage.
Internal.
I got a lot of prejudices against God and the different names of God and the different ways to pray to God.
Yeah.
But it says this in the second step. The minute I stop arguing with you and arguing with me about whether or not there's a higher power, the minute I stop arguing about it, I begin to see and feel. I begin to see and feel. And it says I got to search and research again and again, always with an open mind. And then the end of the second step, it says the most amazing thing. And I've read this book 1,000,000 times, and it just popped out at me recently, relatively recently. It says this: true humility. This is that last line in the 12 and 12 in step 2. True humility. And for me, it's step 2. So it's the humility that I have alcoholism, that I can never ever drink successfully again, and I have an unsatisfiable mind. True humility and an open mind. Most people think an open mind means that they're open-minded, and I used to think that I was open-minded. Like if 2 men wanted to get married, that was okay with me, and I figured that means I'm open-minded. But they're not talking about that. They're talking about an open mind, a mind that is open in this moment right now. It's open to this moment being exactly the way it's supposed to be, with no story, no preconceived ideas, no opinions. So true humility and an open mind can lead me to faith, and every AA meeting is an assurance that God will restore me to sanity if I rightly relate myself to it. So it doesn't happen by accident, doesn't happen in time, doesn't happen because I go to a meeting. Meetings are awesome. I go to a lot of meetings. But the only way I'm going to be restored to sanity is if I will rightly relate myself to this thing we call a higher power, And then I could have the experience over and over and over again of something happening. And if that something is that I am restored to sanity when I do that, then I will come to believe over time that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity by rightly relating myself to it.
Yeah, it's conscious. You get to the, what is it? They say, seemingly, it seems like you're consciously separated, and then,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the solution for that is the conscious contact, and yeah, man, it's crazy. So many things. One thing that I remember I took away from it still crosses my mind quite a bit. When we were at one of the retreats, that you said that one of the common names, I think the most common name that people use for God was something. Wasn't that it? Something, like something just moved me. Yeah, something happened. Something, something moved me or whatever. That's funny. Yeah, it's anonymous.
Something told me to apply for that job.
Yeah, something. Yeah, and it's cool, man, because like that's kind of, it's the God consciousness. That's what we're really trying to do, is get unblocked to where that can start actively, we can start living with that in life, rightly relating ourselves to it, right? And
yeah,
I remember at one of the retreats you had talked about how like a situation where like, it's really just about like, a situation I had yesterday. If I'm not inviting God into it, I may invite God into it yesterday, but today that's a completely brand new experience with 24 brand new hours in this moment. My relationship with God is right here in this moment. So it's so easy to like cross my arms and think he's going to take care of it. At this point, I'm still just living off an old idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I tell that story of the argument I had with my wife.
Yeah.
In the kitchen. And it was this time, for once, finally, I was right.
Yeah.
And we're arguing, and I'm right this time, and I'm going to let her know I'm right. And we get to that place, that jumping off spot where the next thing out of my mouth could possibly ruin this relationship forever.
Yeah.
And I paused for a minute, and I asked my higher power, I said, God, this is not going well. Could you help me? And all it said was, okay, just shut up. That's literally the message I got, was just stop talking.
Yeah.
And so I stopped talking, and I listened to what my wife was saying, and I stopped having to prove that I was right. And I was still right, but I didn't have to be right.
Yeah.
I could let her be right, and I could be right, and I didn't have to prove my point.
Yeah.
And it just dissolved. It just went away. And then, like you said, like a week later, we're back in the kitchen, and this time, for sure, positive. Last time I was only sort of right, but this time I was positively right. Positively. Yeah. And I'm not right very often. Most of the time I'm wrong, and I find out later that I was wrong. Yeah. But this time I was sure I was right. And we got to that, you get to that place again where the next thing might be just a little too nasty to recover from. And then I remembered that something told me to just not talk. And I crossed my arms, and I looked at her like she was stupid, and I didn't say another word, but I gave her 100% self, came out and tried to make her feel stupid for her being wrong without saying a word. Yeah. Now, the guidance was exactly the same guidance, just don't say anything. But self has a special way of not saying anything, as opposed to being in a relationship with a higher power and you don't say anything with love, as opposed to I'm not saying anything because you're too stupid for me to even say anything.
Yeah. It's rightly relating ourselves. It's funny. It's what it is. It's just rightly relating ourselves. What is there? I'm going to botch this, but I think there's like a quote. It's something along the lines that C.S. Lewis says. It's like the moment there's a self, it finds its, it makes itself the center of the universe or whatever. I don't remember the exact wording, but yeah, it's, that's it, man. It's crazy. That's good stuff. I don't know. It's just weird, man. It's cool to see, like, some people just can't hear that. I sponsor quite a bit, I sponsor, quite a, over the years, I've sponsored guys, and some people you can talk to like this, and I talk to the guys like this, so I'm blue in the face, and not everyone can hear it. Not everyone sees it. It's crazy. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out, man. This has been wonderful. I'd like to do some more episodes in the future with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so what is let me ask you this, what does your daily disciplines look like on a daily basis?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
So I get up every single morning.
Mm-hmm.
I go into the kitchen and I make tea. I can't drink coffee anymore. It gets me too weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a pot of hot water. And while the hot water's boiling, I sit down and I read a couple of paragraphs of some spiritual material.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
But I read something spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about that. And then I go and I make my tea, and that has to sit for 3 minutes. And I go back and maybe read some more or meditate. And then I get my tea and I sit down and I just sit and drink my tea and think about my day ahead and how I could bring God into it. But I start off every single morning remembering that I can never ever drink alcohol successfully again, and that I have an unsatisfiable, fault-finding, opinionated mind that's always in a hurry, easily frustrated, and can't stand the word no. I start every day off with that because I'll just forget. Mm-hmm. I'll think I'm okay, and my mind will tell me, Randy, you're good, man. Let's go. Get in the shower. Let's go make some money. We need more money. That's all. That's all it ever talks about is money. Some people, it's women. That's all their mind ever talks. Everybody's got their thing. Yeah. Some guys, it's power. Some guys, it's, for women, it might be men or money or power or prestige. Mm-hmm. We all have our thing. Like, I like power and I like other things, but my thing is my old trick is money. The disease can always get me with money. Stock market goes up, it gets me excited. Stock market goes down, it tells me I'm a loser. I get paid, I'm all excited. I have to pay a bill, I'm a little depressed. If I'm in alcoholism.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: currently, what book are you reading out of?
I am currently the group that I'm leading right now. We're going through the Tebow papers, nice. So we're reading that every Saturday. But I have this book called A Course in Miracles.
Oh yeah. I've done some of the course.
Yeah. I find the course to be the deepest dive into spirituality that I've come across. Mm-hmm. And I like to do the I do the worksheets. Mm-hmm. Every day I do one of those worksheets, and every day I read a couple of paragraphs.
Nice.
Can't read too much of it because it's written in a way that it's impossible to read. You have to unpack every sentence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And have you is this your first time going through the course? Is this that? Yeah.
No, somebody gave me the course when I was brand new. Uh-huh. My first year of sobriety. Mm-hmm. Took me 32 years to read I read the text. It's 760 pages. It took me 32 years to read it. Uh-huh. And 32 years to complete the workbook. Yeah. The 365 exercises.
Yeah, because it wants you to do one exercise per day or at any time, but you can't do more than one a day. Yeah.
No, just one a day. Yeah. And there's 365 of them, so it should take a year. It only took me 32. I'm a slow learner.
Nice. Yeah.
And then the second time I read the text, it took me 4 years. And now I'm reading it again.
Nice.
And it's like a 4-year read if you read a little every day.
Yeah. Marianne Williamson, she's one of the
she's a teacher of that.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah. When I first got sober, she was one of the. I got into a lot of her literature too.
Yeah, she has some good literature.
Yeah, it's great. Man, it's so much I've got from this, and I tell you one thing that for me, another thing is like you were talking about. You start seeing what the truth is through the process and the inventory, right? You start seeing how you lie to yourself, and then. Mm-hmm. Another thing I'd gathered from it, which has been huge, and I talk about it quite often, was the ideals. Like ideally, what's my ideal relation? What does it say? In it, we shape in this way. We shape a sane and sound ideal. That was big for me because, it's pretty much the opposite of what my thinking mind tells me I should probably do. It's like and that was a game changer. I talk about it quite a bit. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Is there anything else you want? You feel?
Well, I would say I have the 2 meetings I do a week. If you've gravitated to this conversation, this is all we do. There's no drunkalogs at the meetings. We meditate, we pray, we do the third step prayer very slowly and deliberately, and we're going through the steps. We read some literature and we talk about it, and then we share about it.
Nice.
And it's a great group, and it meets on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And I have a website. It's just my name, randymermel.com.
Okay.
And Mermel is MERMELL.com, 2 L's. And then we record all of the step study workshops, and they're up on Spotify under my name /Love Your Life, Randy Mermel Love Your Life.
And it's podcast.
And so it's a podcast.
Yeah.
We've had about 50,000 downloads.
Nice.
On 150 episodes. So there a lot of people are listening to it. Some people are listening to it more than once.
Yeah.
This is a lifelong process. I'm still learning every day. I'm 36 years old. I've just said it again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never say it that much, but
okay, yeah.
But I'm still learning today as much as I ever did. We're going through the Tebow papers. I've read the Tebow papers. Harry Tebow was a psychiatrist that was involved in AA before it started.
Yeah.
When the first manuscript went out, they sent it to him, and he had a person that couldn't get sober, and they read the manuscript of the first big book, and got involved in AA and got sober, and it blew his mind.
Yeah, and when I was at one of the retreats, I'd got that, and also Bob Anderson has a book, The Mind-Powered Disease.
Bob Anderson, The Mind-Powered Disease, and I spent, from 92 to 96, I think, is when he passed away. I was in the group that he led. That they call it Prime Time. It's great group, and they have a great way of looking at it. And Prime Time in Nashville, Todd S. is a really good friend of mine, and we led the retreat. So the second year you came to the retreat, I led the whole thing. The next year I led the whole thing, and then last year Todd and I did like what we're doing right now. We just talked.
Very nice.
And with the group, and it was really good this year too.
Yeah, cool.
And then we do that every November for men. It's a men's retreat, and you can come in from anywhere, And then in April, I do a co-ed retreat at St. Mary's in Swanee, outside of Tennessee, and it's co-ed. It's the same thing, though. It's still 12 steps as a way of life with a lot of prayer and meditation. And you really get to dive into living it there because it's very quiet there. There's no distractions. It's just you and your mind and the group, and we start on Thursday night instead of Friday night. So you get Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and half a Sunday. Yeah. It's just enough time for everything to relax.
That's great, yeah.
It's and all the information is on that website if you wanted to come.
Great, yeah. That's awesome. And Tebow, he did wasn't it the medical estimate that's in the back of the book? Wasn't that him?
He did something in the back of the book. I can't remember what he wrote in the back of the book. I can't remember which part he wrote, but he is mentioned in the back of the book.
Yeah.
And he wrote a paper on surrender versus compliance, which I don't think you can. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have to read that if you want to have long-term sobriety.
Yeah, and he also did, wasn't it him that did the King Baby? Was that not him? Yeah, Baby.
Yeah, he talks about King Baby. Yeah. There is a King Baby pamphlet out there. I don't think he wrote that, but he talks about King Baby in his ego, his writings on ego.
Yeah. He's the one that, if I'm not mistaken, talks about it grows back like a bad tumor. Well, Bob D had mentioned in one of his talks, he said that something about when Tebow was talking, and I may be confused. Yeah. It seems like it was like that it's one's over obsession on oneself. He talks about that in his writings. Yeah. He does a lot of great stuff, man. It's good stuff. Yeah. Well, Randy, I appreciate it, man, and I am going to stay in touch with you, and we'll do some more episodes. I'd like to maybe do some go through some of the big book with you, and and also I'd like to do some of that third step prayer stuff. The meditation. I had posted one not too long ago on the 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings where I took the same idea because I've been to a couple different retreats. I went to a retreat earlier this year. And then I went to one a couple years ago in Maryland where I actually took that same idea. Like I do a body scan meditation, and then when we get to the heart, I go into the third step prayer, and I really love that idea. So, thank you so much, man. And for everyone else, thank you for tuning in with us. And the next episode will be on January 3rd, And at the moment, we're not streaming them live or anything like that. I'm recording the episodes and posting them on the Three Legacies Recovery Recording YouTube page. So I'd love to hear some feedback from everyone, if you will. Let us know what everyone thinks, and we'll keep making it happen. And appreciate everyone so much.
Hello. Thank you for listening to Three Legacies Recovery Recordings. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. We're also self-supporting, so feel free to contribute to the channel through Venmo at Recovery Recordings 615. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered as professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.